this is the last part to my Eye of Partridge Heel Toe Up Sock reminder video. I have gone from toe all the way up, done the heel, done the gusset, and I've come up to where I just want to stop. And now I've begun my cuff, which is a 2x2 ribbing to knit to purl. And I'll do maybe just one or even two more rows, and then I'm going to go ahead and bind off. Oh, and a reminder, right before I started my cuff, when I added my new color, I did one foundation round of the contrast color and then began my ribbing. And if anyone is curious, and a reminder to myself on how to do the Norwegian purl, if you get tired of using your finger as a lever up and down, you keep your yarn to the back just like you would when you knit, but you're going to take your left needle, put it behind the working yarn, come into the back of the purl stitch, and then you're going to pull backwards, grabbing the yarn and then pulling it forward and through that loop. So again, for the Norwegian purl, left needle goes behind the working yarn, and you'll push through the front leg of that purl stitch, keeping the working yarn still to the back, and you're going to pull that left needle backwards to grab that yarn and then come back forward and push it right back out of the purl stitch. That way your working yarn never has to come forward and then do the lever. You don't have to do that if you don't choose to. So again, for the Norwegian purl, left needle goes to the back behind the working yarn, and then push the needle through the front leg of the purl stitch. And you can see the working yarn is still in the back. I haven't moved it, but you're going to push the left needle back to grab the working yarn. And it looks really crazy right here, I know. But then come back forward and then go back out. It's almost like a spell. So if anyone's familiar with Harry Potter, when I do this, my brain always goes Wingardium Leviosa. It was the only way I could finally get my hands to do what I wanted. Wingardium Leviosa. Because I'm a Harry Potter nerd, so yeah. But I'll show it to you a couple more times. From the back, push to the front, push this left needle back, grab that yarn and pull it back forward, and then push it out. It's just a different way of purling. For me, it's not faster. I know for other folks it's probably faster, but for me it's not. And it produces the same purl. it doesn't change anything. This, to me, is much faster. When I just treat my pointer finger like a lever. And I'll do the Norwegian one again. From the back, we're pushing through the back of that purl leg, coming backwards to grab that working yarn, pulling the needle back to the front, and then sliding it right back out of that purl stitch. But doing that, again, for me, is not faster. So I only do it when I just feel like doing it. But sometimes I don't remember how to do that Norwegian purl, and then all of a sudden I want to do it, so I figured let me put it in this reminder video. Turn the oven off. Sorry, children cooking and they did not turn off the oven, making pigs in a blanket. Hit the off button, please. Thank you. They're old enough to cook, but forget to turn the oven off, so I have to remind them. I think this is a pretty good height for my cuff. So I'll go ahead and finish this row and then bind off. Okay. Zoom out. Now to bind off, I think I'm going to put these on double points. Make life easier. Oops. Okay. And the cast off I'm choosing to use is Jenny's Super Stretchy Bind Off. So I'm going to have to make sure I get a long enough tail. And actually, now that I think about it, what I should do is put this in the round to make it a lot easier. So just a reminder, next time you do the toe-up socks, don't use the double points. If you have a 9-inch circular, grab that. That way you can just go straight on around. And it's quick enough to move these stitches onto a 9-inch. No big deal. pull that through, push these back, and pop these onto this needle. Okay. Now, to do this bind off, it's super easy. For the knit stitches, you're going to do a yarn over that's backwards. And for the purls, you'll do a normal yarn over. So for the knit stitches, normally your yarn over looks like this, where you're coming from the top. But in this case, instead of coming from the top, you're going to come under and over. Oops, normally from the top, but instead you're going to push down and come up. Again, it's push down and come up, and give it a nice little hold. Knit the first stitch, and then knit the second stitch, and then pull those two stitches over. So let me show that again. Because this is my beginning of the round, so just ignore that. So I'm going to do an opposite yarn over by pushing down, pushing to the back, and coming up, and I'm going to hold that stitch, and I'm going to knit. So I've got two stitches right there. But I'm now going to knit my next knit stitch. So now I have 3 stitches to work with, and I'm going to take these 2 stitches right up and over. I think I have a bit of yarn straggling. I'm going to pull that off. There we go. That way it's free. So that was the 2 knit stitches, and now I'm going to do a normal yarn over and purl. So those are those 2 stitches right there, and then purl the next stitch normally, and then pull the 2 stitches next to it up and over. You can do them one at a time or both at the same time, whatever is easier. So again, ignore this. You can put a stitch marker here if that helps you. Actually, I don't have one near me, but I have a bobby pin. So makeshift beginning of the round marker. So here we have a knit stitch. Again, don't do a regular yarn over. You want to go, move that out of the way. You want to go down on top of the yarn, back. Just put your finger on top so it holds. And that's what your yarn over will look like. And then knit. And since I have 3 stitches, I want to take these 2 stitches back here, up and over this stitch. So I'll do it one at a time to make it easier for viewing. 1, and 2. Have a knit stitch. So again, I'm going to push down to the back, hold the yarn. That way I can pull it up and get that yarn over. And I'm going to go ahead and knit. And then I want these 2 stitches. I'm going to grab them both this time and pull them up and over. Purl stitch, normal yarn over, purl, pull the 2 stitches up and over. There's a purl stitch, normal yarn over, purl, pull the 2 stitches over. And you can see the cast on is being created. Knit stitch, push down, back, hold that yarn. That way you can pull up to get the yarn to go over and hold. And then you knit, and then pull those 2 stitches up and over. Knit stitch, push down, back, hold, pull it back forward to get that yarn over to hold, and then you just knit. Oops, pull the stitches over. And I'm going to take this bobby pin off. Let me do this. There we go. Don't need that stitch marker there any longer. I've got too much of a gap, so I know where I am. Purl stitches, yarn over, purl, yarn over. Oops, I'm sorry. Yes, here we go. 2 stitches. Actually, I'm going to redo, just reverse. There's the 1 stitch. Correct, I was right. Yarn over, purl. There are my 2 stitches. 1 popped over rather quickly. Let me get this last one over. There we go. Yarn over, purl, then pull those stitches over. And then just keep doing this all the way around to the end. So again, don't do the normal yarn over. Down, back, hold, pull up, and then knit. Down, back, hold, pull up, knit. There's that yarn over in there. Pull it up and over, and pull that last one up and over. Oops. And to make sure that my hands stay in the camera. Zoom out. You can see how much stretch it has going around. It is a nice bind off that was created. So I'm glad it's a free pattern, thank goodness. I'm glad I was able to find it on YouTube, but going through all of the videos that I have saved in my playlist, it's hard to find sometimes. So I figured, let me just remind myself in this little reminder video. That way I can find it a little bit more quickly. I think I use this cast off for everything nowadays, even sleeves and ribbing on sweaters, just to make sure I have something that's not either choking the waist or choking the wrists. It's just a really good bind off to use. Almost there. Down and around again. Knit. Now this is the first stitch that I made. This is the first cast off. So I'll go ahead and do another loop, and I'll treat it as if I was doing a knit stitch, because originally that was a knit stitch anyway. The first cast off. Loop that off. Loop that off, and done. Let me grab a pair of scissors and a needle, and we'll finish this up. That should be long enough. More than enough. Okay, you can see it is definitely stretchy. So I will go ahead, pull this end. I don't need my needle. Pull that through. And we'll start weaving in this end. Now, because it looks a little odd if I go backwards, definitely suggest pull it forward in the same direction that you would be knitting when you start your weaving in of ends. So I'm going to go ahead and go into this knit stitch here. Close that loop a little, and then come back through and you can see I created another V-stitch, another knit stitch in there just to close it off. Give it a tug. Okay, now to hide that, I'm going to go into this stitch behind it. And then I can go back. I just want to make sure it's nice and snug. Give it a tug. Go back forward. And you can weave in, if anyone's watching, you can weave in your ends ever you choose. This is just how I'm doing it. So first I go forward and then I go back, and now I'm going forward again. For me, it's just personal preference. Gives me reassurance that I've got stability in this beginning of the bind off area. And that spacing in there, I can close that up with some extra stitches because you don't have that anywhere else. So now that all of this top chain, so to speak, is all stable, I can go back. And it's not making it bulky when I feel it. It's still the same width, I guess you could call it. Same amount of fabric. Let's see. So I'm going to flip this inside out. And to get rid of this, I'm going to crisscross back here. And then do the same thing through these two legs. It was just those two spots. So let me come down. I'm going to go over and under and see what that does. Yep. From the front, that one little pocket got closed up. And for me, I'm not terribly picky about perfectionism on socks because they will get worn out to the point where you'd end up having to mend them or, unfortunately, throw them out because you've worn them out. But that's the whole point of sock knitting. Wear them until they wear out and then knit a new pair. So little things like that don't bother me. And I'm just going right down the knit stitch column and just twisting, going right into each one so it just kind of twists the yarn down the row. And it won't come out doing it this way, I have found. And it does not change anything on that front column either. And then to finish it, I think I'll just go right down and through. Okay. And this extra bit of yarn I can reconnect to the last bit of scraps that I have. And I can use that on a different project. So I'll end up binding off the other sock, of course. And I do have some ends to weave in inside the sock, which would be, and if anyone was knitting along with these reminder videos, you may end up having the same thing if you didn't weave in your ends as you knitted. So I just need to weave in this toe tail, and I can either just go in and out of these stitches up here and have it come back down, which actually may not be a bad idea because of the way it's already traveling. So I'll go that way and then weave it across and down. To here, this was the beginning of the toe, so I'll weave those in, and then I have some here on the heel where I joined colors, and this is at the intersection where we joined colors. This is here at the gusset where colors were joined, and this is where I joined for the cuff. And then this is the tail of the working yarn, the striped yarn that I had cut once I added the cuff. So I do have some ends to weave in before I put this either on my foot or decide maybe it's a gift knit. Who knows? But this is my first ever toe up sock reminder video for myself. So yep, you have a full cuff. And I just did a shorty sock. I figured I would just keep knitting the main color until I ran out, but changed my mind. It's my knitting, I can do that. So I just ended up doing a shorty with a short little cuff. You've got the gusset, the heel turn, the heel flap is all in there, and no holes in this intersection here. Nothing needs to be tightened up. And if I chose, I could just block this out in some wool wash and the yarn will bloom, and all of the yarn stitch differences, it looks like my tension was a little bit tighter and looser in some spots. That would just magically block out. It would just kind of disappear. And this is the other side, the intersection. And remember, I still have to weave in ends. So if there's anything that is a little bit loose, it'll tighten up once I weave in those ends. But yeah, full toe, all those stitches, even on both sides. Toe up sock with the Eye of Partridge heel.